Welcome to the Dream Life is Real Life podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Hermanson. I know it might seem cheesy or cliche, but if you've got a sleeping giant inside of you, or you just feel like you're made for more, then there's no coincidence you landed here on the Dream Life is Real Life podcast. Listen, as a girl from small town Wisconsin who decided to go all in to her dream life vision, I know how crazy it can feel to chase after wild ideas. Since leaving my 9-to-5 job in academics back in 2015 to becoming a yoga teacher, a life coach, and now a digital nomad, currently living in Merida, Mexico with my husband and Labradoodle, I know that all the cheesy cliches are true. I've watched a lot of my dream life become my real life right in front of my eyes. Oh, and I've learned a whole lot about sales, business, and marketing along the way, and I want to share all of that with you. So here, you can consider me your friend and mentor. As a certified business coach, success trainer, international speaker, author, and copywriter, I've helped hundreds of coaches and entrepreneurs build, scale, and enjoy their online businesses. So here on the show, you'll find the real people, concrete tactics, and weekly motivation and inspiration to make your dream life your real life. I'm going to let you into the nooks and crannies of these dream lives and dream businesses and offer lots of real talk along the way. Because to be a true leader in whatever you're endeavoring in your life and to create a legacy that you're proud of, you need a tribe lifting you up with you on the journey. And I've made it my mission to be that partner with you. Because after all, we are all in this together. By the way, if you'd like some help improving your business and life, then we just might be able to help. Head on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com to learn more about what we do and how I might be able to personally support you and just continue this conversation in making your dream life your real life. All right, let's get to it. Hey, today we are with Nicole Cramer, who is a high vibe sales coach for women, health, and wellness entrepreneurs. She is the CEO of her multi-six-figure company, Healthy Steps with Nicole, and her team has dedicated their whole mission to make the world a healthier place through selling and serving. So Nicole specializes in how to start conversations that lead to clients through her proven sales system. She used this process herself to generate a fully booked roster of private clients, and she even had a paid in full wait list. She's also one of only 12 exactly what to say certified guides, making her a specialist in sales language and conversion. In her first 2 years in business, she multiplied her conversion rate by over 400% using this exact method. And so she continually teaches her clients how to do the same. Her focus is on high touch relationship-based selling, where making the customer is more important than making the sale. We love this. When Nicole's not serving and selling, she hangs out in Nashville, Tennessee with her fur baby, Cassie, who loves to spend her time traveling. So Nicole and her dog like to travel, but Nicole likes connecting with like-minded women, listening to John Mayer, and scoping out the best green juice wherever she goes. Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Thank you, Hannah. Well, I will say my dog also loves connecting with other people, and she actually likes John Mayer, not so much the green juice, though.
That's funny. Yeah, I saw her on the screen before we hit record. So that is for real life right there.
Yep.
So, Nicole, I know that prior to becoming entrepreneur and a sales coach, you were actually a high school math teacher, which is near and dear to my heart. I married a middle school teacher. Love my educators, folks. But I know that's such a different path and lifestyle than being an entrepreneur. So I think that would be a great place to start. Just kind of what motivated you to leave your teaching job and step into this wild entrepreneurial West? Let's start there.
Yeah, I actually didn't jump right from teaching into being an entrepreneur. It was part of my path. It's interesting because I think, looking back, you can always see in the through line why things make sense. But when you're doing it, it doesn't always make sense in the moment. And so for me, I was a teacher. I did it for 15 years and I loved it in a lot of ways. And in a lot of ways, I knew it wasn't my forever thing. And so I went into it knowing that I would eventually do something else or try something else. I just didn't know at the time what that was. And when things got to the point where it was just a little stale for me with teaching, a lot of my friends were in sales. And, we'd go to happy hours after work and they'd be talking about just basically, it sounded like a big game to me. And that sounded fun. The athlete in me loved hearing these stories about how chasing that's what sales was to me. It was like chasing the carrot, right? It was like playing this game, and the harder you work, the more money you could make. Okay. And so I had it in my head that I really wanted to try it out. I was you married a teacher. We work hard. We work hard. Mm-hmm. So that's never going to be a problem for me. It was more exciting. It sounded more exciting. And so I thought, let me try sales. And I had never sold a thing in my life, Hannah, or so I thought. What I know now, for sure, without a doubt, we are all in the business of selling something. No matter what we call ourselves in life, no matter what role we play in life, we're always selling something. Mm-hmm. But at the time, I would have never considered myself a salesperson, but I was eager and I was hungry and I was ready to try it. So my whole goal was to be number one in the nation. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that looked like, but I was like, I'm going to join this company and I'm going to be their number one sales rep. That's all I know. Mm-hmm. And I joined the company, and within a year and a half, I did exactly that. And it was pretty incredible. And it's, I always like to tell people this. It's not like it was a year and a half of rainbows and unicorns and sunshine. There were challenges, there were ups and downs, there were tears. It was definitely, I worked for it. But once you make a decision, and this is where I think I pull from a lot as an entrepreneur, there's so many things as a teacher and as a corporate salesperson that I now see benefit me in the role of an entrepreneur. And one of them is make a decision. And do not make a plan B. Like, there was no plan B for me. I was going to be number one. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know. I mean, when I say that, I knew what it meant. It meant I was going to be the best person in my company, but I didn't know what that looked like or how hard it could or should be. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people I was like ignorance on fire. I didn't know why it should be hard. And I didn't know why I shouldn't be able to do it. And that's why I was able to do it. And I think that that's a big thing for entrepreneurs as well. Like, our mindset, our beliefs are what make it harder on us than what it actually is so often. So for me, that's what I did for 7 years. I jumped into corporate sales. I became number one. I did that a couple of years in a row. And then I realized how much the teacher in me was still there. Mm-hmm. And so I started teaching people sales within my sales team. I just really enjoyed it and I was really good at it. And so people always came to me to ask for, support, help, guidance. And, I liked that part. I liked helping somebody else succeed. And the people that I was coaching then went on to become, number 6 in the company, number 3 in the company, number 1 in the company. Mm. So it was really fulfilling and exciting. And it was like the two people in me, the teacher and the salesperson, got to show up and really help others.
And the athlete. I love that, Nicole. So we had another CEO, Dorothy Johnson, on the show a couple of weeks ago, and she talked about how starting her business felt like having a child, like deciding I'm going to have this child. And she didn't expect it to be figured out in 1 year, but like really thinking about her business as like a lifelong relationship. And I think that's such an important mindset. And you're speaking about the same thing, is that as athletes, as entrepreneurs, as parents, if we are, like, this is our craft. And I think there's so much buzz, especially in the coaching industry right now, that's like, you can do this in 8 weeks, or, these like short fixes or these short programs that don't give us that mindset that you show up for your sport on the off season and every single day. And it's not one season at a time. I think that is going to really resonate with folks who feel like they're playing they're sprinting a marathon. I think giving that kind of athlete's mindset is really interesting. How has that mindset that, it's a sport, it's a game, there are highs, there are lows. How has that impacted the way that you sell, like that longer term game?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think being an athlete has helped me in so many areas of my life because, as an athlete, one of the things that you have to learn how to do is lose. It's going to happen. And you're always striving to be better, and you're always striving to improve, and you're always wanting, whether you play an individual sport or a team sport, you want to win, but also the way you lose means so much because, you have to get back up and try again. And that's entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
You're going to lose. You're going to get beat up. And what you prepared for is not going to work out the way that you thought it was going to sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it's going to feel awful sometimes. It's, you said it, it's up, down, and all around. And I think to be able to keep going, even when things get really, really challenging, is one of the toughest parts about being an entrepreneur, but one of the most important parts about being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I feel like I really started to get through with my husband. I said, he's a middle school teacher. And a few years ago, we were having this conversation because there's very different relationships with money if you're a school teacher versus a business owner. And so we're always trying to, just better understand where each other is at. And when I said my sport is making money, it was during NFL playoffs and we're both big football fans. And I'm like, my sport is making money. Like Tom Brady or whoever you think of shows up every single day to just try and get better at football. He's great at it. He's been doing it for 10 years. And that was finally when my husband started to see and that's why I want to keep going. And it's never enough, quote unquote, or I always have more goals. It's I show up to the gym, which is Zoom calls to get better for this lifelong game that we're playing.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think it's true about anything in life because the point of us being here, we're expanding beings. We're vibrating beings. We're always growing. We're always expanding. That's the expectation. And if you're not growing, you're dying. And so applying that in an entrepreneurial, perspective is really important. You never get to a point where it's like, oh, okay, I got it figured out. My course is selling well. My coaching programs are going well. I'm good. It's just this for the rest of of my life. And it's never going to be that way. Right, things are always changing and evolving and growing.
Exactly that. You're one funnel away from your private island. It's just so gimmicky. Okay. So you mentioned something about being vibrating beings. And I think that's such a huge piece of the sales game is having the right energy. So I want to talk through your sales system and some of the things that you've learned along the way. My guess is that it starts with some sort of inner game, getting the vibes right. But walk us through kind of what you learned in those years of hustling that now has you, being an expert in sales.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it starts, continues, and finishes with the inner game. I don't think the inner game is ever, I think 95% of what we do is mindset. And I think about 5% of it is strategy. And I will stand by that because it doesn't matter what strategy you apply. If you don't have the right mindset, the right beliefs to back it up, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
So true.
And so I think the inner game has to be the number one most important thing. And I also think, why are you doing this? It can't just be about making money. Is making money important and exciting? And is that a really important piece about being a business owner? Yes. But what is your gift? What is it that you're sharing? What is it that you are serving the people who need what you have with? And it's what's inside of you. And that's where, the energy that we show up with has to be the energy of service, has to be the energy of truly connecting with people, caring about people, and wanting to help them solve their problems. And I'm really connected to that because when I was in corporate sales before I became an entrepreneur, as I told you, my whole goal was to be number one in the nation. And I did that. And guess who that was for? Me. Did I have customers that I took care of? Absolutely. Everything I did to become number one was about relationships. It was about building relationships. And it was also about, I want to be the best. I want to be the best. I want to be the best. And I did that a couple of years in a row. And after the second year, I was like, there was something missing. There wasn't a connection anymore. And what I said is, I don't want to be number one again. And I was talking to my mom at the time and she said, you don't have to be number one. And I said, oh, they'll fire me if I'm not number one. And she was like, where did you get that? Did somebody tell you that? And I was like, no, but if I prove that I could do it and I don't do it again, they'll fire me. And I can even hear every time I relay this conversation, it's like my ego was so caught up in what I was doing. And I was making it more about that. Again, I had great relationships. I loved my customers. I took great care of them, but I was so focused on that. And what I realized is it wasn't doing it for me anymore. I didn't care about it anymore. And so I took a step back and I was like, okay, what got me out of bed before I was good at this job? Like if being number one isn't what's important to me anymore, then what has been important to me all along? I've mentioned it now a couple of times. It was relationships. It's caring about people. And it came down to two things. And here's what sales is. To me, my definition, it's building relationships with people and helping them solve their problems. And after that second year of being at the top and being number one, I reconnected with it just being about people and helping them. Mm-hmm. And everything changed for me. I was still good. I was always in the top, of my company, but it wasn't important to me anymore to be number one. It was important to me to take good care of my customers and find people who could benefit from what I was doing. And that's really what sales is all about for me.
Yeah. There's so much that I'm hearing around embodiment. Like so many of us say those words like selling a service and I have a big why. And we kind of go through the motions. I mean, I did in my first few years of business. It was just like, I care about this, but I also have to pay rent, like it was like, yes, I'm coming from my heart. And also like, make sure it ends up in my bank account. Right. There's that kind of level of embodiment. And then there seems like there is this natural depth that comes after a few years and after achieving some of the stuff you thought you wanted, right? Like, okay, I'm doing it, but what's it all for? And I think that question, like, what am I doing this for? What's the bigger why than my ego? And being honest with yourself totally changes the game. And like you said, that's not really, you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. And you can't, like the energetic game really is so important.
I say that all the time. Like you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. You can't say the wrong thing to the right person. And at the end of the day, and you know this, Hannah, you're a copywriter. People are never going to remember what you said or did. They're always going to remember how you made them feel. Feeling is the secret. That's the piece. And so it's not as much, it's your energy. It's how you show up. As you said, we're vibrating beings and it's what your true intentions are. And if you really do care about serving people and helping people, that is what they will feel.
Yeah. So let's dig into it because like I said, I feel like there's that level of embodiment that's like, yeah, I get what you guys are saying. Like, Nicole, I got it. Yeah. Energy game.
Yeah.
But how do we do like a real assessment or how do we know if we're actually starting from that right energy before we get into like the next steps of,
I think it's really caring about people. I love this definition of empathy. Empathy is caring about what the people you care about. And empathy is a big part of the sales game because here's why people will always do things. Always, always, always. This is why people will do things for their reasons, not for yours. And when you care about what they care about, you're saying, I care about the reasons why you might want to do this thing. And that's a big piece because it can't just be serving your agenda, right? It has to be mutually beneficial. Yeah. And empathy is taking the time to understand why they want to do this thing, and we're all different types of service providers. So whatever the thing is, whatever the service is that you're offering, why do they want to do that truly? And taking the time to get curious and ask them questions to understand more about them and what motivates them is how you are going to make the sale, not because you need to make the sale or you need to pay your rent, right? That becomes very manipulative. And that's how we start stepping into that salesiness energy that everybody talks about. Salesy isn't even a real word, but we all use it and we all know exactly what it means. It's that energy of I need this and I'm going to more or less not really listen to you, but try to sell you something. And there's a difference between selling and buying. People like to buy, but they don't like to be sold.
Totally. Yes. I say that line myself, Nicole. We are reading the same books and vibing the same energy here.
Yeah.
I totally resonate. Yeah.
So I think that's really important is to understand, getting curious, asking questions, getting to know somebody. There's another definition of sales that I really like, and it's sales is earning the right to make a recommendation. You're not selling somebody something, you're making a recommendation and then allowing them the opportunity to buy. Because like we just said, people like to buy. I love to buy.
Totally.
Because you know why? They feel like it's their decision.
Totally.
That's very empowering. That's where when somebody's buying something, it's because it's their choice. And the way that you give them that choice and walk them into making that decision is by taking the time to ask questions, get to know them, stay curious, and build empathy by really caring about what they care about and why they want to make this decision.
So good. And that shifts the whole conversation, right? You're not racing to get to my pitch and like, hurry up, come on, like this is what we need to talk about, but you're listening to make the right recommendation.
Right. Well, because you might not get to the pitch if you're really listening and you really care and you see, wow, maybe I'm not the best fit for what they're looking for, or maybe this isn't the right option for them. Then your recommendation isn't going to be you and your pitch. It might be something else, or it might just be, hey, it doesn't sound like this is the right time for you to be stepping into this. Let's keep in touch. You know, it can be a lot of things, but I think that's really important. You won't know that unless you're listening. You won't know that unless you're really taking the time to get to know them.
Yes. And the universe loves true yeses and true nos, like being in integrity. Just a few months ago, I found myself saying like, we're not a good fit to a lot of people. And I started to question myself because I would have liked a yes, you know, like that kind of go for no energy. But anyway, I remember just like really doing the mindset work and trusting like that's not the right fit. It's not an energetic alignment. It's not going to work, even if they want to give me the money. Because as a copywriter and as a marketing strategist, like the right fit is so important. And then just like playing any numbers games, sure, after enough no's, we started getting yeses and we started getting clients that came way more prepared, that were ready to, you know, invest in higher rates. And as a result, got better results working with us. So,
and better results sell for you.
Yes.
Right. They might know somebody who also wants those same results. Energetically, that's like the ripple effect, and it goes far and wide, and we couldn't ever possibly accurately measure that. And so staying in integrity and taking on the right people and allowing them to create those results is going to be part of your sales game, because that will sell for you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that part of the conversation. You've done a lot of these relationship building conversations and sales conversations. So where in the conversation do we know this is the right fit or this is not the right fit? And how do we navigate that? How do we help? How do we either say, hey, I do want to move you into the pitch, or we say, hey, we're not the right fit? Let's zero in on that moment in the conversation. Are there some telltale signs of which direction is right? And then how do we articulate where we want to move them?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that is probably going to surprise people that I'm going to say, that most people live in fear of hearing an objection. And I will say an objection is actually a buying signal. So when you start to hear those, a lot of times it's because somebody is genuinely interested in what you're talking about with them. And ultimately, the objection usually comes up because of fear of some type. But if somebody really doesn't want something or really isn't interested in something, they're an adult. They can just say, this isn't for me. This isn't the right fit. So a lot of times, when you start to hear, and how does an objection show up? Usually in the form of a question. So if somebody's like, well, how long is this going to be? Or, well, how much time does it take each week? A lot of people in a conversation get really nervous when that question, a question like that is brought up, because they're like, oh, I hope I can give the right answer. Well, that person is interested, or they wouldn't be asking that question. So if you're really listening, you're going to hear along the way a lot of things that will allow you to understand they're genuinely interested in what you're talking about. So again, we want to be prepared. There's 4 cornerstones of what makes a great conversation. First, be prepared. The worst time to think about what you're going to say is when you're about to say it. Scripting things out, I think, is really important. And, a lot of people are like, yeah, but a script can kind of like be restricting, because what if the other person doesn't say back what you've scripted? Well, we got to be a little loose and flowy with it, right? We have to have a general idea of where we want to take the conversation. But I always like to remind people, if you've ever cried at a movie or laughed at a movie, that person learned those lines from a script. And so we need to remember the way we get better at something is by practicing it, and be prepared before you go into the conversation. Have some questions that you know you want to ask so that you can be prepared instead of in that moment trying to figure out what you want to say. Mm-hmm. The second piece that's really important in conversations, and I mentioned it earlier, it's being curious. Curiosity is the fuel for a great conversation. And curiosity is how you show people that you care about them. And that's what people want more than anything. They want to be cared about. Mm-hmm. More than being right, more than anything, they want to be cared about. And so you staying curious and asking questions, a lot of times on a sales conversation, you're not doing much of the talking. You're asking questions and allowing them to talk, and you'll hear everything you need to hear. And then another important cornerstone of a great conversation is building empathy, which I also mentioned. Empathy is you caring about what the people you care about. Take the time to ask questions, get curious, and find out what they care about. Find out why this is important to them. Mm-hmm. They're going to share all the things that are going on that have brought them to this conversation. Because what we need to remember is when you're in a sales conversation, that person is not there because they didn't have anything better to do with their day. That person has not said, nobody, let's be honest, we all have something in our link in our bio on Instagram where you can sign up for a call with us, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody woke up one morning and said, gosh, I got nothing today. I got nothing on my calendar. Let me go check out some of those links in the bios on Instagram and see what I can sign up for. Right? Yeah. Like they're not signing up because here's the thing. The most valuable thing that somebody can pay you with is their time. Mm-hmm. So keep in mind, if somebody has signed up to have a conversation with you and they're on that call with you, it's because they genuinely are interested in what you do and what you share and what kind of support could look like for them. So we have to remember that going in. And once you've taken the time to be curious and ask questions and build empathy, the fourth tip of a great conversation is you got to have the courage to ask, and not just ask for the business. Of course, that's a big piece of it. And that's, on the tips of the question that you asked me, but also asking questions all along to find out more about the person, about what's going on, about their situation, right? Sales is earning the right to make a recommendation. You can't make a recommendation unless you have context, unless you've asked them questions to understand their situation. And that's when you'll know, gosh, do they have a situation that I can truly help them with? Do they have a situation that I might be able to refer them to somebody else to help them with it? Mm-hmm. Or do they have a situation that just isn't appropriate for what I offer? And, I'm going to say, this isn't the right opportunity for you. And you'll know because you're listening. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times I think we feel like we need to have the perfect thing to say, when really we're just listening. We've heard all the things we need to hear. And, when you use their words, they can't argue with it. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's like, oh my gosh, this is going on, this is going on, this is going on, then you get to say, because you said X, I'm going to recommend Y. Or whatever it is that would be the right fit for them. Mm-hmm. And you're not saying, I want you to buy this thing that I'm selling. You're saying, because you shared with me that here's where you're at and here's what you haven't been able to figure out, I've got something that can help with that. And they can't argue with their words.
Yeah. That's a difference between buying something and being sold something. Like, here's the recommendation. Because of everything you said, I've heard people call that the doctor frame, right? Where you're like taking a diagnostic evaluation and then you give them a prescription, and then it's up to them to like go fill it or not, or see a different specialist, right?
Right. Well, yeah, because prescription before diagnosis would be malpractice.
Right.
We are exactly the same. We want to make sure that we are diagnosing and really understanding. And to do that, you have to ask questions and really understand the person and where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love the other thing you said too, about how objections are an indicator that they're interested, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's such an important thing for us to remember. We like to make it about us, like, oh, now I'm awkward. Now I have to go through this hard part of the conversation, but really that's their curiosity of like, how long is this going to be? Can I afford this? Is this, a decision I want to make? So embracing that part of the call, because that really is the time for you to open up the opportunity, right? Make that recommendation.
It's a great time also to say, if they're asking those, how long is this going to be? And, I want to make sure what the investment is, to make sure, like, when they're asking those questions, again, I told you they're buying signals. I like to say, because remember, you have to have the courage to ask the questions, right? I like to say, it sounds like you're really interested in what we've discussed. Mm-hmm. Like calling them out. It sounds to me like you're very interested in what we're discussing here. Oh yeah, it really is. Great. Can you tell me what it is about what we've discussed that feels like it would be the right fit for you? Again, get them talking. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to tell you why I think my program would be best for you. I want you to tell me why you think it would be best for you. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask you the question in this moment that gets you to answer it. So what makes you think that my program and what we've discussed is the right fit for you? And they're going to say, oh, I like this. I like this. I like this. I like this. I really like your energy. I like what you've shared with me today. Doesn't it feel a lot more comfortable in that moment asking for the business? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They've just told you why they want it.
A two-way relationship, right? That's not just like one way, I'm here to sell you something, but back to that relationship-based selling that you started this conversation with. Yep. Wow. Amazing. So if you could give coaches one nugget today, okay, I'm with you, Nicole, Hannah, this is great. But I got a sales call in a couple of hours and I just need one nugget to take with me to make this one feel better, to make it less salesy and more authentic. What would be your, 2 minutes of advice for that person today?
Well, one thing I would do if they've got a sales call coming up, remember, we don't want to just make it about us and our agenda. We always want to really stay curious and build empathy. One of my favorite questions to ask in any sales conversation, and I do this very early on. So you want to start with a little greeting, hey, how are you? Nice to see you. I can't believe we both have a boxer dog. That's so cool. Whatever, relate to them in some way and be friendly. And then very early on, I pre-frame and I say, here's how the call is going to go. And I give them just a quick rundown of how to conduct the call, because we don't want to be, surprising people with like, oh, I'm going to take you on this mystery journey. It's like, no, here's how the call is going to go. It's a business call. So pre-frame it. And then this is the question that I like to ask. Because in the pre-frame, I'm basically saying, here's the agenda. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to cover. Well, I want to know why they're on the call, right? I'm telling you how the call is going to go. I want to know how you're on the call. So here's the question that I ask. Now that I've shared with you how the call is going to go, I have a question. What will make this call a success for you? And I want to know right at the very beginning why they're on the call. What's going to make, why do you want to be here? What's going to make this a successful conversation for you? And sometimes they'll say, I'm here to gather information. Sometimes they'll say, I'm here to decide if working with you is the right fit for me. Sometimes they'll say, I'm here because I knew that I love what you offer online and I've watched a lot of your videos and I wanted to have an opportunity to have a conversation with you. Whatever they're going to say, it's really important for you to listen in that moment because you'll understand a lot more about why they're on the call. So what will make this call a success for you? And you'll ask that very early on, and it will give you a lot of information about how and where to take the call from there.
I love that. That's great. Yeah. I used to say something more like, my intention for today is to understand where you're at. And then if I can help you, we'll talk about that. If not, I'll talk about who I might be able to refer you to. But I love giving them that, authority or that ownership in the conversation, again, to make it more of a two-way relationship. That's exactly brilliant.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, Nicole, if people are like, yes, this is resonating, I need more Nicole in my business, in my life, in my sales process, where could listeners go to continue this conversation with you and, get some of your sales expertise?
Yes. So I'm in a couple of places online and I would love for them to connect with me. I'm on Instagram at the Nicole Cramer. There were a couple of other Nicole Cramers that were on Instagram. So I'm the Nicole Cramer. And then I also, for female health and wellness entrepreneurs, I have a Facebook group called Nicole Sales Superstars. And it's kind of like the teacher in me reappeared in this Facebook group. It's kind of like my classroom. And I do free sales trainings every week and love to interact live on the sales trainings. And I do trainings around what my community wants to hear about. So that would be amazing if they want to join me in Nicole's Sales Superstars. And I also have a free gift for everybody today, and it's around how to have better sales conversations. And it also contains 2 lines that I absolutely love. These are rejection-free openers. So anytime you want to open a conversation and introduce pretty much anything to anybody at any time, these 2 lines will help you do that in a rejection-free way. And I teach that on my masterclass that I would love to offer all of your listeners for free. So I will make sure that you have the information so that they can grab that.
Yes, all the links. That is so generous. And yes, thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge. I know there's so much more breadth to it, but this was so helpful. And really, listeners, like taking that permission slip to use sales as a relationship, right? And think about the people that you're in a conversation with that's not wanting to be sold to, but definitely wanting to buy. And yeah, Nicole can help you take all of these skills to the next level. So we'll make sure that we have links to connect with her and grab those free gifts. Thank you so much. Like I said, and listeners, I'll be back next week with another inspiring guest that will help you make your dream life and business your real life. And don't forget to hop on over to dreamlifeisreallife.com/show for specific goodies that we talked about today and access to continue the conversation with these guests as well as myself. I cannot wait to see what you create. Until next time.